The rain was drumming on the cobblestones of Old Town, the kind of rain that seems to wash away secrets and sins alike. I was standing there, soaked to the bone, staring at my reflection in a puddle, a reflection of a man betrayed. You see, I'm a freelance journalist, traveling from one place to another, chasing stories and whispers of the past. But this story, my story, started right here, in this ancient town, where every stone and alley whispered tales of love, betrayal, and redemption. Old Town wasn't just a place, it was a character in its own right. It was a quaint, historic town, where the buildings leaned into each other like old friends sharing secrets. The town's history was painted on its walls, murals of battles, love, and times of peace. Its culture was a tapestry of traditions and modernity, where old men played chess in the square and youngsters buzzed about with their newfangled gadgets. My job had brought me here, to document the town's unique blend of the old and the new. I walked its streets, camera in hand, capturing moments, a child's laughter, a couple's tender gaze, an old woman's wrinkled smile. Yet, amidst all this, my own life was unraveling. I had just discovered a suggestive text on my wife's phone. From my boss, no less. It was like a sucker punch to the gut, unexpected and brutal. When I confronted her, she didn't even flinch. Cold and unapologetic, she admitted to the affair. I felt the ground slip away beneath me. Anger bubbled inside me like a storm. Revenge became my only solace. I started plotting against my boss, digging into his life, searching for something, anything, to bring him down. And that's when I found it, evidence of his illegal business dealings. It was perfect, a poetic justice. One evening, as I drowned my sorrows in a dimly lit bar, Mia walked into my life. She was like a breath of fresh air in a suffocating room. We talked, and it turned out she understood pain all too well. Mia, with her enigmatic smile and eyes that seemed to see right through me, became my unexpected ally. Meanwhile, the town was gearing up for its annual festival, a celebration of its history and culture. The streets were alive with music, dance, and the aroma of traditional foods. It was a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. As I got closer to Mia, I realized she was more than just a shoulder to lean on. She was my partner in this dance of revenge. Together, we plotted to expose my boss, using the evidence I had gathered. But as we delved deeper, our relationship grew into something more. It was a dangerous game we were playing, mixing business with pleasure, revenge with romance. The town's festival reached its crescendo, mirroring the climax of our own story. The night was ablaze with fireworks, lighting up the sky, as if celebrating our impending victory. But just like the fleeting sparks, our triumph was short-lived. In a twist of fate, Mia's connection to my boss was revealed. She was his estranged daughter. It was a revelation that left me reeling. The town, with its age-old stories of love and betrayal, seemed to mock me. I was caught in a web of lies, deceit, and a love that was as complicated as the winding streets of Old Town. As the festival ended, so did my illusion of a simple revenge. My life, like the town, was a blend of the old and the new, past mistakes and future uncertainties. I stood there, amidst the fading music and laughter, realizing that revenge was a double-edged sword, and I, along with Mia, were just pawns in a much larger game, played by fate in the timeless streets of Old Town. Ever been to Venice in autumn? The city's like a grand old dame, cloaked in fog, her canals whispering stories of ancient intrigues and modern-day escapades. That's where I found myself, an itinerant journalist, always on the move, yet never escaping my own shadows. Venice, with her meandering waterways and secretive alleyways, was the perfect backdrop for my latest, most personal story. It all began when I met Mia. She was like a Venetian mask, elegant and enigmatic. We started seeing each other, and in her, I found an unexpected ally. She was smart, supportive, and understood the gnawing need for revenge that consumed me. My boss, the man who had betrayed me, was about to feel the sting of his own medicine. I had gathered enough evidence of his illegal activities, and, under the cover of Venice's misty cloak, I leaked it all. I was waiting for the explosion, for his empire to crumble. But instead, He cornered me one foggy evening near the Rialto Bridge. He was livid, accusing me of treachery, but lacked the proof. His anger was as palpable as the dampness in the air, yet he was powerless. Then came the twist, straight out of a Venetian drama. Mia revealed she was the estranged daughter of my nemesis. My world tilted. The waters of the Grand Canal seemed to churn with the same turmoil that I felt. What Venice teaches you about unexpected alliances and strange bedfellows. Mia wasn't just the daughter of my enemy, she was a woman wronged, seeking her own vengeance. She proposed a plan to bring down her father, and I, driven by my own vendetta, eagerly agreed. As we plotted, Venice continued her eternal dance. The city was preparing for the Festa della Madonna della Salute, a centuries-old tradition commemorating Venice's deliverance from the plague. The streets were alive with anticipation, echoing my own story of retribution. It was a reminder of how personal vendettas and broader histories often intertwine, each feeding into and shaping the other. Mia and I were like two characters in a Venetian play, our lives a mix of light and shadow, love and betrayal. As the city celebrated its past, we were entrenched in our own battle, set against a backdrop of Gothic palazzos and echoing footsteps on cobbled streets. Venice, a city that had risen from the marshes, was a testament to resilience and survival. And as I walked through her calle, I realized that my own story, interwoven with Mia's, was not just about revenge. It was about finding strength in the most unexpected places, about learning that sometimes, to move forward, you must navigate the treacherous waters of your past. The Festa della Madonna della Salute culminated in a grand procession, a sea of candlelight flowing through the city. It mirrored our final act against Mia's father. As the city paid homage to its history, we were about to make our own. In Venice, stories never really end. They flow like her canals, finding new paths, new narratives. And as the city embraced its past and present in a luminous procession, Mia and I stepped into our future, uncertain, yet bound by a shared resolve to right the wrongs of our pasts, against the ever-present, watchful eyes of La Serenissima. The moment I heard the buzz of the airport, it struck me. This was it, the climax of a story that had started in the most mundane way. A cheating wife, a scheming boss, sounds like the setup to a bad movie, right? But here I was, in the thick of it, with Mia by my side, ready to turn the tables on the man who had turned my life upside down. We had just discovered that my boss was planning to flee the country with a fortune and embezzled money. It was like something out of a heist film, except there were no heroes in sharp suits, just me, a journalist turned avenger, and Mia, the estranged daughter of the man we were trying to expose. Our plan was bold, maybe even foolish. We were going to intercept him at the airport, expose him right there in front of everyone. But first, we needed more evidence, the kind that would seal his fate. So, we did what any desperate duo in our situation would do. We broke into his office. It was a scene straight out of a spy thriller, only clumsier. Sneaking through the corridors, ducking behind desks, parts pounding in our chests. And then, jackpot, documents that laid out his entire escape plan, plus evidence of other crimes he committed. It was like hitting the jackpot. If the jackpot was a trove of incriminating papers. In the midst of all this, my wife decided to make an appearance. She called, her voice crackling through the line, begging me to come back, promising she'd changed. But that ship had sailed, crashed, and sunk. I was a man on a mission, and nothing, not even the remnants of a broken marriage, could sway me. Just when we thought we'd gotten away with it, security showed up. There we were, caught in the lion's den, with nothing but our wits to save us. But as luck, or maybe fate, would have it, we managed a narrow escape, slipping through their fingers like shadows in the night. As we sped away from the scene, I couldn't help but reflect on the absurdity of it all. Here I was, a journalist, used to being the observer, not the participant. Yet, here I was, living out a story that was part thriller, part drama, and completely insane. The city buzzed around us, oblivious to the drama unfolding in its midst. It was a city of stories, each corner a different narrative, each street a different chapter. And now, Mia and I were part of its tapestry, our story woven into its fabric. As we prepared for our final act at the airport, I realized how intertwined our lives are with the places we inhabit. The city wasn't just a backdrop to our story, it was a character, its rhythm influencing our every move, its energy fueling our resolve. So, there we were, two unlikely Avengers, set against the backdrop of a city that never sleeps, about to take down a man who thought he could play us all. It was a story of betrayal and revenge, of love lost and alliances found. And as the city lights twinkled in the distance, I knew that no matter how this ended, it was a story I would never forget. The sun was setting over Barcelona, painting the sky in hues of fiery orange and gentle purple, as if the city itself was in on the conspiracy unfolding beneath its watch. You know how they say every city has a soul? Well, Barcelona's is a mix of old-world charm and modern hustle, the perfect setting for a tale of intrigue and betrayal, my tale. I'm a journalist, more used to chasing stories than being part of them. But life, like the winding streets of Barcelona, often leads you down unexpected paths. Mia and I were in the thick of it, unraveling a plot that would make the most seasoned spy raise an eyebrow. It all started when we realized we were being followed. There's a certain thrill in being chased, but this was no game. The narrow, shadowy alleys of Barcelona's Gothic quarter became our maze, as we tried to shake off our unknown pursuer. Then, out of nowhere, a mysterious informant reached out. An offer of crucial information about my boss, the man whose downfall Mia and I were plotting. The informant's voice was a whisper over the phone, promising revelations. Imagine our shock when the informant turned out to be my boss's loyal assistant. In the heart of Barcelona, under the watchful eyes of centuries-old buildings, she handed us a piece of the puzzle, a tip about a secret meeting my boss was attending. We couldn't believe our luck. Armed with this new information, we turned into spies, shadowing my boss to a luxurious hotel, its grandeur a stark contrast to the dirty secrets it was about to unveil. There, hidden behind a curtain of opulence, we discovered the depth of the conspiracy. A corrupt politician was in cahoots with my boss, their plans as intricate and tangled as the art of Antoni Gaudí that adorns this city. As Mia and I absorbed the magnitude of what we had uncovered, I couldn't help but marvel at Barcelona's dual nature. Here was a city that celebrated its artistic heritage, yet beneath its vibrant facade, it harbored stories of corruption and deceit. Our evening ended on the rooftop of a bar in El Raval, overlooking the city. Barcelona sprawled beneath us, a tapestry of history and modernity, beauty and decay. It was a reminder of how stories, like cities, are never one-dimensional. They are complex, woven from multiple threads: love, betrayal, ambition. In that moment, with the city lights twinkling like stars fallen to earth, Mia and I realized the weight of what we were about to do. We were about to expose a scandal that would shake the city to its core, a story that would be whispered in these streets long after we were gone. Barcelona, with its contradictions and complexities, was not just the backdrop of our story, it was a character in its own right. It was a reminder that every choice we make, every path we take, is part of a larger narrative, one that intertwines our personal stories with the broader tapestry of life. And as I looked out over the city, I knew that whatever happened next, this story, our story, was now part of the soul of Barcelona, forever etched in its history. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you do, please take a moment to hit that like button. It really helps me out and lets me know you appreciate the content. Also, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. The neon lights of Tokyo buzzed with a life of their own, casting a glow on the rain-slicked streets, setting the stage for a showdown straight out of a cyberpunk novel. That's where I found myself, a world away from home, chasing down a story that had turned personal, too personal. I'm a journalist, usually more at home behind a keyboard than playing detective. But when Mia, my partner in this whirlwind of espionage and betrayal, was kidnapped, everything changed. The message was clear: back off, or she pays the price. But backing down? That wasn't in the cards. Tracking down Mia's location led me straight to a hideout connected to my boss, the man behind all the shadows we'd been uncovering. Tokyo, with its blend of ancient tradition and cutting-edge technology, seemed an apt setting for this twisted game of cat and mouse. Infiltrating the hideout was like something out of an action movie. Dodging guards, sneaking through dimly lit corridors, it was adrenaline and fear, mixed in a potent cocktail. And there, in a makeshift cell, was Mia, injured but alive, her spirit unbroken. Her resilience lit a fire in me. We couldn't let this stop us. Together, we had unearthed a scandal involving my boss and a corrupt politician, a story that needed to be told. Mia, despite her injuries, insisted we finish what we'd started. She was tough as nails, had to be, in this line of work. So, we did what we had to do. We leaked everything to the media, the shady deals, the corruption, the whole rotten story. Tokyo's underbelly was exposed for all to see, and the public outcry was immediate. The city, always a whirlwind of sound and color, seemed to pulse with the outrage of its people. As we watched the story unfold, I couldn't help but reflect on the dichotomy of Tokyo. Here was a city that prided itself on honor and tradition, yet beneath its neon facade, it harbored the same greed and corruption found in any megacity around the globe. Mia and I, two foreigners caught in the gears of this sprawling metropolis, had managed to shake its foundations. We were David against Goliath, armed with nothing but the truth and our determination. In the heart of Tokyo, amidst the towering skyscrapers and bustling streets, our story reached its crescendo. We had exposed the untouchable, brought light to the shadows. And as I stood there, the city's energy coursing through me, I realized this was more than just a story of corruption and betrayal. It was a testament to the power of resilience, the strength of the human spirit. Tokyo, a city that never sleeps, was a witness to our battle, a silent ally in our quest for justice. And as the story made its way across the world, I knew that our fight in this neon jumble was just a small part of a larger narrative, a tapestry of stories that make up the human experience. So there we were, Mia and I, standing against the backdrop of Tokyo, battered but not broken. We had taken on giants and lived to tell the tale. And as the city lights shimmered in the rain, reflecting the complexity and beauty of life, I knew that this chapter of our story was one that would stay with me forever, a reminder of the fight, the pain, and the triumph that is all part of the dance of life. You know how sometimes life feels like you're a character in a high-stakes thriller, but without any cool background music? That was me, right there in the midst of Lisbon's cobbled streets and ancient trams, with a story that could easily make headlines. I'm just a regular guy, a journalist, who's seen more airports than I care to remember. But Lisbon, oh man, Lisbon was different. It was like stepping into a time machine, where every winding alley whispered tales of explorers, revolutionaries, and poets. Yet, here I was, about to face off in a modern-day showdown. My boss, the guy who turned my life into a living nightmare, was on the edge. He'd been planning to flee the country, using a private airfield just outside Lisbon. The plan was to intercept him, Mia and I against the world. Sounds like a plot from a spy movie, right? We geared up, feeling like amateur spies, our nerves jangling with anticipation, but as we raced through the streets, something went horribly wrong. We were ambushed. It was like a scene straight out of an action movie, screeching tires, flying bullets, heart-stopping fear. The chase through Lisbon's historic avenues was insane. Past the Bullen Tower, over the 25 Diabril Bridge, it was a high-speed dance with death. And then, boom, a fiery crash, a twisted mess of metal and smoke. By some miracle, we crawled out, hearts pounding, lives intact. But then came the plot twist. The crashed car. It belonged to my wife, the same woman who'd betrayed me. She'd been following me, desperate to win me back. The irony was almost laughable. Almost. Lisbon, with its history of maritime conquests and revolutions, was now the backdrop for my personal drama. As my wife lay there, injured and betrayed, she dropped a bombshell. She'd been working for my boss all along, spying on me. The moment was surreal. There in the shadow of Lisbon's ancient structures, the city that had seen more than its fair share of treachery and pain, my personal life, tangled up in a web of deceit, was playing out in this city of father music and melancholic beauty. We couldn't stay, not with everything at stake. So, we left her there, her cries of betrayal echoing off the stone walls. It was cold, harsh, but necessary. We had to reach the airfield before it was too late. As we raced away, the city of Lisbon seemed to watch us, its colorful tiles and narrow lanes a silent witness to our desperation. This city, which had welcomed explorers returning from unknown lands, was now the stage for our pursuit of truth and justice. In that moment, the story of Lisbon and my own were intertwined. It was a reminder that personal battles are fought against the backdrop of greater histories, each individual story a thread in the rich tapestry of time. So there we were, Mia and I, speeding towards a showdown at an airfield, with the soul of Lisbon echoing in our ears. This city, a blend of the old and the new, was the perfect setting for our story of betrayal, love, and revenge. And as the city lights faded behind us, I knew that this chapter, set in the heart of Portugal, would be one for the books. Never thought I'd end up in a Mexican standoff at an abandoned airfield outside Prague, a city as ancient as the secrets of Keats. But here I was, gun in hand, facing the man who'd made my life a living hell. My name's Jack, by the way, a journalist who's seen more than his fair share of trouble, but nothing quite like this. Prague, with its Gothic spires and shadowy alleys, had always been a place of mystery and intrigue to me. Its streets whispered tales of kings and rebels, artists and spies. And now, it was the backdrop to my own personal drama. Mia and I had arrived at the airfield, hearts racing, ready to confront my boss. The tension was palpable, the air thick with the scent of betrayal and impending conflict. It was like stepping into a scene straight out of a Cold War spy novel, except this was all too real. The standoff was tense, every second stretching into eternity. Then Mia did the unthinkable. She revealed her true identity to her father, my boss. The shock on his face was a picture worth 1,000 words. Prague, a city that had seen its fair share of revelations and revolutions, was witnessing another, albeit on a much more personal scale. But our moment of triumph was short-lived. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder by the second. The informant had tipped them off, and soon we were surrounded. The airfield, once a symbol of escape and freedom, had become our cage. In a desperate move, my boss grabbed Mia, holding her at gunpoint. His eyes were wild with fear and cornered fury. I had to make a choice, and in a split-second decision, I fired. The shot rang out, echoing across the airfield. A reverberation felt through the very heart of Prague. Mia was safe, but at a terrible cost. My boss lay there, lifeless, a man undone by his own greed and ambition. The police swarmed in, detaining us both. As I was led away, the spires of Prague loomed over us, silent witnesses to the chaos below. In the interrogation room, reality hit me. Mia, despite everything, was deeply entangled in her father's criminal activities. Evidence surfaced, painting a picture far more complicated than I had imagined. Prague, a city known for its layers of history and complexity, reflected our own narrative. I was released, but Mia wasn't so lucky. She faced serious charges, the weight of her father's sins dragging her down. As I walked the ancient streets of Prague, the city felt different. The romantic charm it once held for me was overshadowed by the stark reality of the events that had unfolded. The airfield confrontation was more than just a climax to our personal vendetta. It was a reminder of how deeply our lives are intertwined with the places we find ourselves in. Prague, with its enigmatic beauty and storied past, had become the setting for a chapter in my life I'd never forget. As I left the city, the spires receding in the distance, I couldn't help but feel that Prague, with all its mysteries and legends, had one more story to tell, ours. A story of love and betrayal, of choices made and prices paid, set against the backdrop of a city as timeless as the tales it tells. Life's funny, you know? One minute you're a hotshot journalist chasing stories around the globe, the next you're sitting in a grimy dive bar in New Orleans, nursing a whiskey and reflecting on how it all went south. New Orleans, a city of jazz, jambalaya, and jubilant masquerades, now the backdrop to my unraveling. Mia's trial was like something out of a movie, the kind you watch and think, nah, that could never happen, but it did. Her mother, whom everyone thought was dead, shows up out of the blue. The courtroom in the heart of New Orleans, usually buzzing with the city's infectious energy, fell silent. Her testimony was a bombshell. Mia, the woman I loved, had been a puppet in her father's hands since she was a kid. Despite everything, Mia was found guilty. But thanks to her mother's words and the twisted circumstances, she got a reduced sentence. As I sat there, in that courtroom, surrounded by the echoes of jazz from the streets outside, I couldn't help but think about how New Orleans, a city that's seen its share of tragedy and rebirth, was witnessing yet another personal tragedy unfold. The fallout was monumental. My boss's criminal empire, which had stretched its tentacles deep into the city's underbelly, collapsed. But it wasn't a clean cut. Lives were ruined, careers destroyed. The vibrant city, known for its resilience and spirit, mirrored our own turbulent saga. I visited Mia in prison, the bars between us a stark reminder of how far we'd fallen. There, amidst the clanging doors and distant cries, she told me it was over. She wanted a fresh start,